Okay, so I have reset over to my sewing area for doing the upholstery work. I'm digging out parts and components to make all this go. It's really important that you see what you can see. It helps if there's a lot of concentrated light on what you're doing. So, and definitely so. I'm going to be sewing blue. I have a random assortment of thread. So I've got this guy unwrapped, and this guy's still wrapped. They are both high quality, 92 size, treated polyester, UV protected thread. Should show some stuff off here, so let me move the camera a little bit. Unlatch it, move it around here, and make it so you can see this. This is not what you're going to see at your common home machine. This is a rescued from a leather worker who had bought it originally to do leather work and found that it wasn't heavy enough for doing holsters and other things related to that. Singer Industrial single stitch straight stitch sewing machine. It can't do anything else, so it is very, very unlike most home machines. It is powered underneath here by a DC drive controlled motor so that it has variable speed. It belt drives the sewing machine. Here's the belt. And it is what they call a walking foot machine. So this foot right here will walk forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. It pulls the material through. The bottom on most machines moves, but the top doesn't. This foot will walk. The industrial grade needles that are here, and it's hard to see just how big they are. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it. That needle is quite thick and sizable. It's designed to punch through stuff, unlike a standard home sewing machine. So it will punch through 3-4 layers of vinyl without a problem. 2 layers of thin leather, no issues. Heavy leather, forget it. It breaks needles like crazy. It's not a bad machine at all. It does a good job. Now I'm going to have to sew a little bit of test to make sure I've got everything the way I want it, so how close together the straight stitch are, because you get so many stitches an inch and various other things of that nature. I need to set all that up, and I'm going to go get some material and I'm going to blow some stuff through it. I need to switch from the red thread that you see right here to the blue thread. Since both of these, let me see if I can get in here so you can read it. It says SunGuard 92. Man, my hands are shaking today. Let me see if I can get my hand to stop shaking quite so much. SunGuard 4 ounce, size 92, Pacific Blue, not unwrapped. This guy is Permafast UVR polyester, size 92, Marine Blue Wick Stop. Again, it's UV rated. There's a protective chemical on this so that the sun won't cause the thread to turn into mush. It does that to plastic. Both colors on the blue. I mean, this one's a little lighter, this one's a little darker. They're both blue. I ain't that picky. It'll be blue enough. So I'm not going to use the new thread. Back in the bin. Now, to change all this out is a bunch of work. I got to set up a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to put you back on the tripod so you can see it happening. Okay. So, if we loosen this up a little bit and look up high, what you'll see back behind the thing over here is the vertical stands that the thread stays on. Now I've got this thread all knotted up, and I'm going to go ahead and freshen it. You never want to use, if you're like me, this stuff's been sitting for quite a while. I want to take the first couple of feet of the thread and just get rid of it. Very, very good scissors, only for sewing. And you end up with a pile of crap, by the way. So a trash can's good, but I don't have one handy. So, I'm going to set this here. There is kind of a weird little rig here. I want a bit of resistance to the movement of the thread, so there's fluff in the top of this to make that happen. Now, To do the sewing, I need bobbins. So you have to have thread above and below. This is for people who haven't sewed before. Nothing wrong with that. Heck, I suck at it, but I still try. Yeah, need little tools and all kinds of crap. Okay, so the bobbin is buried inside the machine down here. And I will pop the latch on it, pull the original bobbin out, which is red thread, because I'm not going to use it. And the thread's looking awful. Busting it up, so that thread's getting a little weak. We'll wind it up and put it away for now. Put it on there. And the thread itself, back over here, is thread through the needle. And I'm going to pull it back out of the machine, because when I'm threading the bobbin, I don't want to have to deal with it. There's a bunch of special resistance stuff in here to get the thread tension right, to make it pull correctly when you're using it. So this thread, I'm going to go ahead, dip it off up there, scrap this, and then we're going to switch to the blue. So the first thing we got to do is load the bobbin. These old machines load in a different sort of way. There is a, hang on, you're going for a ride all the way around the room. Nice tripod. And bounce. If you look at the back side of the machine, you have this weird looking dingus here. The bobbin will go through there, sit on this. The thread, moving this back here, has to go through that resistance wheel right there. Okay, so I want to thread it through up here. I want to go around the resistance wheel. It's basically two plates that hold it together, and it should provide just enough resistance to put tension on the thread. Okay, I then come through the hole right here. You push this forward to make it engage with the belt, and then there's a plate down here on the floor, and when you turn it, the machine's going to start moving, and it will go on to wrapping. And if you watch the thread move, it very carefully walks back and forth across the bobbin. The little machine does its job very nicely. When it reaches a certain level, it's going to pop loose. But this will kick it off. Coming real shortly, it'll kick it out. Boom. That's it. It is now fully charged and ready to use. If you cut it without thinking about it, it pops totally loose. So you wrap it with your thumb and your finger, cut it, pull it off, keeping your thumb and finger wrapped. Cut this tail off so that you have the bobbin. Now, we bring it over here. If you look down in there, I'm going to make it so you can see down in the machine. I have to put it down in the hole. Okay. There is a special little spot for the thread to come loose and out. Once the thread comes loose and out of there, you'll see that it's loose. Kick the latch over. Now comes the fun part. I got to thread it through here, get it down, and I need to catch it with this revolving needle. There's a needle, let me get where I'm pointing at, right here. It's going to spin around. You'll see it, that'll unlatch this. If you look, you'll see it spin around. It's got to catch the thread and carry it. So I've got to pull this back, push it down enough that that thing comes back and catches the thread, which is really tough to do. There it goes. Alright, so it's got it wound down in there the way it should have it. Good. Now I have to take the same thread that I was using on the threading system over there, and I got to run it through this machine and bring it over and thread it up on this side. So we take it through the hole here, bring it across, back through this hole. Okay. Then it's going to do a loop around, loop around, loop around on this tensioner right here. So you go through, loop once, through, loop. Well, I guess this makes the first loop, not the second loop. And then the second loop, you go through. My eyesight's not what it used to be. Bring the thing up. You get tension on it that way. You lay it across this tensioning wheel. You come down underneath and go under this wheel. When you pull up, it will rest against this spring. And then when I pull on it, you'll feel tension on it. I pull it through that to get it in. Now, if I unlatch a little bit, you'll see this arm moves up and down. That's what pulls the slack in as it's in the process of making the stitch. Pulls tension up too. Come up through it. I come back through the same space. Come down here. Now the really fun part is I'm going to come from the back side of this into the oiler. There is a brick of foam in here that is wet and shiny and oily. Come through that. Tension's too tight. Okay, that doesn't feel too bad. Now, when you come down on this, I need to lift that all the way up. There is a round keeper under here that I have to get around. So the only way to do that right is to make a loop. See this? Come back in from the back side and hook it on. Then you can pull it through. He's set. But his thread's coming apart. That tension is way too tight. I don't like what I'm feeling there. Pull the tension way back. Okay, that feels better. It's all about getting the tension right on the strings for when you're doing this to get the stitches to work up right. Alright, so again, feed that loop in. Sometimes helps to come across the back, feed it in. Now it's lined up with the front. I got to come in and I got to feed the thread down, and I like to bring it from the front here through the needle, because from the back side doesn't work. This revolving needle over here has to see a loop kind of like that. Okay, it's really hard to see. I'm going to open this up and bring it down. What you want to have is that loop that you see right there, because the revolving needle here has to spin around and catch, and it has to do it in that gap right there on that needle. Very complicated little process, and it has to be time-tuned and everything else to work. Alright, now that I have that in, I want this guy unwound from what it's wound up in. Dumbass. You're not supposed to get it all wound up with crap. Okay. Alright, bring it around again. By the way, this thing will stab the piss out of you and take your hand apart if you're not careful. Alright, now, I want these two to come together. It will make that loop, and it will present me with the ability to pull all of this up and out if I did it right. Come on, lay out. Good. And if it did it right, it will pull it up through the hole and leave you with a piece of thread. I threaded it from the needle. Happens all the time. I'll go back and rethread it through the needle. He said if he can see anything. It's unwound. It's very common for the thread to undo its winding. You got to sharpen it up by cutting it off. It'd help if my eyes were any good. Okay, now I've got it through there. I want the needle up as high as it'll go. I'm going to lift the foot. I'm going to carefully shove it down through the way it's supposed to go down through. I'm going to take and pull the thread very gently both ways. Tease it. I know this is really stupidly complex. Your average modern machine just threads itself, which is very nice to deal with. I gotta add that. Okay, I have that guy coming up through. Okay, there's that one through. This one is for the needle. Come on, go on. Don't be evil. Okay, now I'm going to pull a little tension here to get some extra string here. You pull, you break the needle, so don't pull on the needle. Alright, now what I have is the thread goes through the needle, through the walking foot itself, underneath. The bobbin thread is out, I have both of them there, and they now have extension where I can grab them. You're going to use a lot of string, it doesn't matter. Okay, now I need scrap so I can do some test sewing. So, let's move this back here. Make it so we can see the sewing a little bit. And I'm going to run some scrap testing and adjust my thread counts per inch and all that junk. You basically want to practice this and set up what you're doing on the same material you're going to use. So I have a scrap of the blue stuff and I have a scrap of the white stuff, both of which will get used here. So my first thing is going to be that I need to do a fold over and sew across this guy. Now this does not have a lock stitch in it. Since we're doing upholstery, that's okay. It's going to be past the end when I staple this in. Down here will be stapled on the underside of the wood, so it doesn't matter. But I got to feed this in very carefully so that I'm sewing about 1/4 inch and as straight as I can. Because it does not have a lock stitch, you cannot start without getting both strands tight and then testing your thread, because it will want to jam, it will want to break the thread, which it did, so that didn't work. We're going to have to rethread and fix. I've got a strand of red stuff down there which I don't want. Where'd that come from? A leftover. Leftovers are not good. Hadn't even seen it. I don't know where that came from. Leftovers can mess with your life. Alright, so I got both strands. Pull them back. Start this all over again. And of course I need to pull tension here to get a leg on that I can grab a hold of. I'll lay it over again. Get started where I wanted to. Again, about 1/4 inch in. Grab both strands tightly, so you link them around a finger. So that they've got tension, equal tension, and then you sew. and I'm not pocket stitching. Okay, why not? Why are we not grasping the thread? So we check. Should drop. Why does it look like we don't have the thread in the needle? Because we don't have the thread in the needle, that's why. That would do it. Right there. You won't sew much if the thread don't go all the way down. So, pull it out. Feed it through the needle again. Turn and feed it down through the hole in the foot. Until it gets down there on the bottom where you can snag it. Pull it back and out. Get your 2 leads. Try again. Lay the feet down nice and tight. Tension on the threads. We got a broken strand again. We're breaking thread here. We've got too much tension on that top one. I think. Are we breaking it, or we just, yeah, we're cutting it with a needle. It's just breaking. Why is the tension so high? Let me look at the tensioner here for a second. Alright, let me get the pieces out of this and have a look. Shiny bit right there. Tight. This guy. Tight. Oops, that's the wrong way. I need the other way. That. And then the piece. Spring. Whoops, got the washer on the wrong side, excuse me very much. Spring on, that on. If this continues to fight, get down in the hole. That is way too tight. Does not want to slide on them. Alright, we're going to oil it. Where's my oil? Oil or wax or something got to go on there. That thing ain't behaving. Jug, boys and girls. All of that. How's this? Let's see if I can get that to slide a little better. Way too tight. take this down to almost no tension and see if it'll behave. It's too tight. It shouldn't be that hard to move. Feels like it's been like that. Alright, let's see if that'll behave. Drop thread. These old machines are moody. You gotta do them just right. Or they do not work. See if I can saw a straight line along this guy. Gotta get this threading to work right. Whoops, that's upside down there, buddy. Doesn't matter which way you sew it. So let's just show a nice straight line here. Alright. Match it. Why are you cutting your thread so bad? The needle's cutting the thread. On its way back up. Huh. That's very strange. Okay. Is it the needle or is it? Yeah, it's that thread that's unhappy. The bobbin thread appears to be fine. I wonder if we got to change needles here. Because it's stripping it right out. God, that's tough. Alright, let's just take this off and let it go around it. It's a lot easier. Try again here with less tension on the line. I want to sew it with the heavy stuff in the wrong color. Here. I see. Like that. This guy should go through. Look at the break. One of the lines. See what breaks when I go full speed. Good break. Cut the line off on the needle. Oh no, it's not in the needle anymore. It really does not want that up in that needle. For some reason. It's going to be an annoying video to edit because I'm going to have to cut out a bunch of it that ain't no good. That should not work because it's down the back side of it. What is all that scrappiness? The question is, do I want to break that stitch down or do I like it? That's a good spacing. They're about not quite a quarter inch, which is about perfect. They're nice and tight. That looks good. So now I want to let that one loop get caught, work it loose, bring out my threads, put them on. Okay. I think we're good with that. Let's make sure it'll sew that guy right there. If we turn it over, this will be a little harder because it's harder to sew. So I want to be in about a quarter inch. Go. Alright, so we get a nice rolled edge like that right here, and that's the kind of look I'm looking for because I'll lay it down on the white vinyl, then I'll sew it across. This is just a demonstrator piece. Then what I'll do is with it across the white vinyl, do a secondary edge. It's going to be much harder because I'm going to try and guide it with the foot. So this gets harder to do. I want to pull the first couple of stitches manually. Okay. Now with it guided, trying to bring the stitches together. Alright, there's nothing. This is all test work, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to see if what I get is what I want. So with a little bit more care, I want the stitches, because you see how they come together too much right there? That's kind of crappy-ish, but it leaves me with a rolled edge, blue on white, and then what I'll do is staple it around, pull it tight, staple it around the edge. So that is doable. I can live with that very nicely. So it's time to see if I can screw up the only piece that I've got by cutting my blue band. So, I want this stitch to be right about there. We're going to have to lay this in very careful. We'll start it manually. Okay. Gives me the ability to roll it. We'll sew it slow, because we want it right as we can get it. Go down in the back. Whatever you do, don't let your fingers get near that needle. That machine here has enough power to punch right through your fingers. Should do it right about there. Okay. So now I have a nicely sewn edge on that side. I'm going to turn it around, we're going to sew it back. So I have a nice sew, ready to lay down. Lay it back on this side. Threads where they need to go. Lay the fold in the right place. Try for the same look, same setup. Roughly speaking, right about there. Tighten up the threads, manually sew the first 2 or 3 stitches. I am pressing with my foot to undo the lock underneath here because this thing is locked. And now, we're ready to feed. Yeah, a pro could sew this a lot faster than I do. I ain't no pro. Alright, I now have a band. So, pull it off, waste the string, it doesn't matter. String's cheap, relatively. I now have a nicely sewn blue thingy. The trick is going to be getting this to feed through on that entire heavy piece of white fabric. So here's the white vinyl, all big and sizable. So I'm going to fold it in half. No, I'm not going to sew it that way. I need to mark where the center is, because it's going to be exceedingly hard to get this just right. So, now the bottom edge of this is going to get stapled to the plywood, so it is totally possible for me to put marks on it with a Sharpie marker. Nobody's going to see it. I'm going to mark the front side and back side to know where the center is. Come on, boy. Now it's got to be longer than it is wider. Let's not put the Sharpie marker where we don't want to see it. Good more. That'll come off with a cleaner. That is longer than it is taller. Now here's the fun part. To sew this on, I need to roll the vinyl in such a way that we are up towards the center but not at the center, and I can feed it through the jaws of the sewing machine. I need to have it sewing where it needs to sew if this guy is centered up. And I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is convenient. Okay, just for confusion's sake, I'm going to remove these. I don't want to see these strands. Come on, scissors. Thank you. Okay. Now, I need to get that lined up perfectly. This lined up the way I want it. So I can do that secondary stitch to tighten this up. It's going to be a feeding nightmare. So I need this to go straight across. Give me a clue that I'm going straight. I don't want it concocted up. It makes it really hard to straighten out. Okay, so I'm going to clamp this in place. I'm going to go look at where my bottom is. It's a little over that way more than I want. If I pick this up and lay it down, it's almost perfectly in line. Now comes the fun part where I've got to carefully unlatch this, put that thing in line, and I got to hold tension on the pieces of string, otherwise it doesn't work. So, first stitch, second stitch, third stitch, fourth stitch. You can see the walking foot is pulling it. It will be much harder to pull this through, so I'm going to clamp here. Kind of hold the strings, kind of clamp the load, and then start eyeballing all this in so that it goes pretty much straight. Then I gotta sew it so there's tension on everything. That to lay flat, this to lay flat. Yeah, it's as hard as it looks. You look, things are wanting to kink up under there. I gotta pull the kinks out because you sew over the kink, it gets really messy. I gotta check my center. How we doing? Not bad. Looking good. That's starting to tension up. Just slightly off center, but I can correct it right here a little bit. Okay, that puts us right about center, right about unlocked. And we'll pull it. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, top one, bottom one. Come on, cut you. Thank you. Right. Now to pull it out of there, we have a piece sewn on. Now we do it all over on the other side with a double tension piece. We've got to keep the vinyl dead flat, nice and smooth, and good tension on it while we sew back across. So, this one is fun. I'm going to lay it up here. How am I on the center? Just out of curiosity. Yeah, I'm off 1/8 of an inch. That ain't bad for my kind of sewing, since I kind of suck at this. I'll take it. So I'm going to want to pull slight sideward tension on this, but not a lot. And I'm going to want to keep the vinyl, white vinyl, nice and flat. And I'm going to do the same basic stitch and sew that I did on the other side, which is lock this puppy down, pull the tension on this up. When we go to put it onto the seat, I'm going to have to stretch the crap out of it. Get it pulled in, and there's a bunch of techniques for that too. Okay, so hand stitch, tension on, this guy, that guy, hand stitch we go. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we should be good now to start rolling under machine power. So I want to have a little bit of tension on the vinyl as I sew across it. So I want to pull this just slightly tight. Okay, I'm going to fold this up, bring it up on my lap, get a little bit better tension. So everything's got to be nice and taut, because otherwise it'll get sloppy. Getting a little looser than I want it to be. It's not bad, but it's not the way I want it. Okay, now we're running into things over here where we're going to get resistance. It's folding up like crazy on me here. Okay, let's get this rolled so we got something to push into. There we go. Last bit's tension on everything. Alright. That's as good as it's going to get. Okay, so the end result, if we come back here, is, let me rotate this just a hair so you can see, spread across my fat tummy, is a piece of white vinyl with a nice blue stripe up the middle. It's double stitched, or it looks like it's double stitched even though it's not. There's a slight edge to this where you can stick your fingernail under it. It will wear down over time. It'll leave a nice center. All we got to do now is attach all this so to over top all that foam work we get. Although, I honestly think I better sew the center of that down. Or do I need to? No, I don't really need to. It should be okay. So we'll just fold it and go. So there's a vinyl thing that has to go on brick. And we'll stretch that out in a minute. So, all done with the sewing machine. We can cut her off, put her lid back on, put her to sleep. Put all the tools away. There's the fat tummy again. Fat tummies come up all the time. So let's put this puppy to bed. And we'll be back when we get to the other half.